Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight on our news.
The Baha Claims Committee has announced the payout dates and employees should be contacted today. That story straight ahead.
BPL officials give an update on those rental generators. That story straight ahead.
Minister of Labor Shane Gibson does a tour of the East Hill Street Post Office to see just how bad conditions really are. That's coming up tonight on our news.
Plus, why some Haitian students have been denied acceptance into public schools. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina McNeil. Topping news tonight, the committee responsible for overseeing the payout of claims to former Baha Mar employees and unsecured creditors will reach out to employees today, detailing the amounts of money they are owed. Notices published in local newspapers explained how and when they will get those funds. Dana Smith has the details.
The Claims Committee said it will contact Baha Mar's former employees by email today, and checks should be ready for pickup in less than 2 weeks. Labor Minister Shane Gibson said despite the criticisms from the opposition, he never doubted this day would come. According to the notice, claims will be paid to employees in alphabetical order during the last week in September. Last names beginning with letters A to F will collect their checks on the 27th. Those with last names from G to O will collect on the 28th, and former employees whose last names begin with the letters P to Z will collect their check on the 29th from the Crystal Palace Training Hotel. News of the payouts comes amid continued criticisms over the process and questions as to who is eligible to receive money and how much they'll receive. But Gibson said despite the naysayers, good things are starting to happen.
The contractors themselves never came to the press and doubted being paid. The employees themselves never came to the press and doubted being paid. There were persons who were hoping to capitalize on the time it took, the time from the announcement to the time when they would actually be paid. I never doubted it for 1 minute. We never flinched when we heard the leader of the opposition or the Contractors Association, current president or past president making noise, because we knew what they were talking was nonsense.
Former employees must present a government-issued ID in order to collect their payment. The notice says if employees do not receive an email from the committee, but previously received a notice of redundancy letter from Baha Mar in October 2015, there's no need to submit any further information. Simply come on your assigned date and collect your check. Gibson said although government officials are pleased by this latest news, they understand there's a lot more work to be done.
We realize that this is a start. Persons who worked in the past are now being compensated. We now have to get the construction started, which I understand is supposed to start before the end of this month. We then have to get contractors paid, which will happen as we said it would happen. And so even though we appreciate what's happening, we're not doing cartwheels yet. And for me personally, I'll start doing cartwheels when I see the resort open and I see some of the thousands of unemployed persons right now being employed at the Baha Mar Resort.
According to James Smith, the government's representative on the Claims Committee, the funds being provided by the Exim Bank to cover the claims should be deposited to a local bank account by the end of the week.
Thanks, Dana. Well, temporary generators that were imported to help meet the massive demand for electricity in New Providence this summer will be fully operational by the end of the week. That's according to officials at Bahamas Power and Light who led the media on a tour of the site this morning. Our Jasmine Brown was on that tour and has this report. Jasmine?
Thanks, Christina. Officials say the generators are pretty much ready to go after they finished preparing the site. However, it was a much different scene 2 months ago when the area was covered in bushes like this just behind me. That's the sound of relief for thousands of Bahamians who have spent the sweltering summer months experiencing rolling blackouts. According to Bahamas Power and Light executives, a total of 40 units like this one are set to come online by the weekend. They led a tour of the Agreco plant this morning. The temporary generators are being housed at a site to the south of the Blue Hills power plant. BPL Corporate Communications Manager Arnett Ingram says preparing the site and erecting the generators was a tedious task that took longer than expected.
It was a long-term process. One of the people spoke to you and they told you that the site was bushes about 45 days ago. It had to be cleared, it had to be prepared. We had to get the engines here, we had to get them installed, all the cabling in, all the fuel lines, and that is a lot of intensive work, and we had to make sure that it was done safely.
The new units add to 40 other Aggreko generators installed at the Blue Hills power plant last November. The generators were shipped in from countries across the world, including Panama, Australia, Dubai, and Denmark. BPL Deputy General Manager Siobhan N. Cambridge says the generators will be in use for the next 13 months. Cambridge says having them online will allow BPL to conduct much-needed maintenance on its permanent units.
They will also be around to supplement our existing capacity going through next summer as well.
As for how much it's costing to rent the generators, well, officials aren't saying.
We want to be competitive, so we don't want to reveal what somebody would have charged us for the units that we have.
Now, BPL officials say they're confident that once both sites are fully up and running, residents will get the much-needed relief. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown. Christina, back to you.
Thanks, Jasmine. In other news, weeks into the new school year, there are still some children who are home from school. The reason? Members of the Haitian community say their children are being prevented from registering for public schools due to immigration and education policies that are nothing more than discriminatory.
And I'm here, I'm paying my I'm paying for my work permits. I don't see why my child cannot go to school. I'm not an illegal immigrant. Last week I went back to the school. They said, Mommy, I cannot help until you have your permits. I don't know what to do, and the girl is right here. She's staying at home. I don't know what to do, I cannot do anything.
Tempers flared at Metropolitan Church as parents and guardians of children of Haitian descent listed the reasons their children were denied acceptance at public schools at the start of the new school year. The Department of Immigration recently introduced a requirement for all students in the public education system to possess a student permit or a belongers permit granted by that department. Without assistance in obtaining those documents, many say their children will remain at home weeks into the new school year. Villain has guardianship over her two nieces. One of them is entering grade 7, but was recently only issued provisional acceptance for the first term of school.
Without the permit, can she start school in September?
Est-ce qu'elle peut commencer l'école là en mois de septembre?
She told me no. Not until I get the receipt or something from immigration. Yeah, so therefore, she's home now.
Activist for the Haitian Bahamian community, Luby Georges, says while this issue is only affecting a particular group of people in the Bahamas, there are those who refuse to believe it. That's why he and other community leaders have pledged to do what it takes to ensure that every child receives the education they are entitled to.
I've spoken the past week to some high-ranking individuals and persons who are concerned from the Bahamian community who would love to help. Unfortunately, they said to me, Luby, we do not believe that this is happening. If our kids who are born in this country cannot go to school, that's really ridiculous.
While Education Director Lionel Sands says despite the immigration policies, no children should be out of school. He says the registration process is solely in place to document all children in the public school system. But if any student is being denied acceptance to school, parents need to let him know which schools are responsible.
Well, I need to know those schools. Okay. Because if I know the schools and the parents would have followed the procedures, those children should be in school. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, there should be no child on the street today in any of our 172 schools. No child.
Sands says in order to register for the public schools, parents are required to show that either the mother, father, or both parents are Bahamian. If they are unable to do that, Sands says the parent or guardian must get a student permit from the Department of Immigration. Based on the wait time for the permit, Sands says a receipt is good enough to grant a student a spot in the public schools.
We do not, in our school, in any of our schools, deny any child access into any of our schools. So there should be no child, in my estimation, who is still out of school because for some reason they have not been given the immigration visa or the student visa for that particular child. Because once they show the receipt, then it is understood that the process will probably take some time, and so no matter how long the time takes for the person to get the visa, the child is allowed in the school.
Stan says he expects over time that all children in the public school system will be documented before the school year begins. Well, nearly 2 feet of water filled 3 different levels of the East Hill Street Post Office yesterday. We are told that maintenance workers worked late into the night drying up the flood. Minister of Labor Shane Gibson toured the building today to assess the damages. Our Giorgio Stirrup reports.
Now, although most of the cleanup following yesterday's flood at the East Hill Street Post Office is just about complete, conditions at the post office remain just about the same. Minister of Labor Shane Gibson did a tour of the building today, and according to Gibson, he's surprised that employees actually show up on a daily basis. Flooding resulted in hundreds of damaged packages and letters, a collapsed ceiling, piles of trash left in the hallways, and a malfunctioning air conditioner. These signs were posted in office windows and read, "Stop the long promises. Health and safety are my concerns, and believe in the people and show us some dignity."
The problem with this building is you don't know what to expect. You can come one day and the bathroom can flood today, the ceiling can flood tomorrow, rocks can drop down the next day. You could have a combination of all these things happening at one time. And I tell you, just walking through this building today, it gives me a better appreciation, and I'm even more thankful to the workers in this building, because if I was in the union and I was union president at the time when this stuff was going on, I don't know if I'd allow my members to work.
Workers of the General Post Office were set to start moving out in phases by the end of October. Gibson said although the Independent Shopping Center has been identified as the new location, no work has started to get the space post office ready. However, he insisted workers should not have to wait another 4 to 5 months.
Now that we're behind schedule, obviously we have to relook at it. And we may have to look again at moving out in phases, because I don't know that all of the staff members here can wait until the entire process is completed before they agree to move. And so I don't see how it could possibly happen under maybe 4 to 5 months.
President of the Bahamas Public Service Union, John Pinder, said he will stand up for his members.
Well, if they can improve the conditions in here to some extent, they at least have to make an effort to improve the conditions in here in terms of ensuring that the persons who work in here, this is safe enough for them to be in here for a little while longer. I can't tell you that I will encourage them to stay here under these conditions.
Reporting for our news, I'm Giorgio Stirrup.
Still to come on our news, the latest on Bahamas Power and Light employees who were injured on the job yesterday. Plus, bus drivers say they have a plan to unify the public bus system, and the King Eric Regatta takes Rock Sound next weekend. That's coming up when our news returns.